Hello, and welcome back to another True Crime Tarot reading. Today, we are going to be doing a reading with Jon Benet Ramsey. We have our decks here that we're going to use today. We have our ever faithful Tarot of the Haunted House as our main tarot deck, and we will be potentially doing some supplementing with Moonology and Dark Mirror Oracle. These two oracle decks have been really great to use in these kinds of readings, and we're just going to put them off to the side here. And before I get into the reading today, I want to preface this about what I already know about the case and whatever personal biases I have developed about the case. The Ramsey family has been through a lot, and I don't want to add on to that. And my personal opinions about the case, I don't think they're responsible in the way most people do. Today's goal is to connect with Jon Benet and to hear her story and her message, whatever that is. And we'll take a look at it together. And if you have thoughts or comments on the cards you're seeing and your own interpretations of what they mean, if they're different from mine, please comment that. I would love to hear it. So I want to start with a little bit about the case and what the story is that we know today. I'm going to get some things maybe not super right, so keep that in mind. First of all, when this case happened, I believe it was the early 90s, and Jon Benet was a 5, 6, 7-year-old girl. She was little, I remember that much. She had an older brother, Burke, and then an even older sibling that was grown and already out of the house, and she was the youngest, and she was the last girl. And she was kind of famously a child pageant star. And the way that the general story goes is it was Christmas, they were living in Colorado, and they went out to a Christmas party that night, had come home. Jon Benet was already half asleep, sleeping, and they took her up and put her in her bed, and the family got ready for bed and went to bed. It was fairly late, and the next morning when John woke up, which is the father, he couldn't find Jon Benet. And so everybody kind of starts getting up and starts frantically looking all over the house for Jon Benet. And then they find this rambling, 4, 5, 6 page, it's ridiculously long ransom note letter. And this note has been studied to death, and nobody seems to make sense of it really. And then after calling 911 and the police to report Jon Benet missing, the police come to the house, and it's a mess. People break up into teams and start searching the house again, and John and another man that I believe was his friend, it wasn't even police or anything like that, they decided to go down to the basement one more time. There's rooms within rooms down there, and they finally decide to go all the way to the back room where nobody would have even considered she was in the first place. And they go into that dark room and turn on the light, and they find Jon Benet deceased. Chaos ensues. I'm not going to get into the details of what was reported after her body was discovered, because let's just say chaos ensued and police didn't know what was going on. It seems like the family doesn't really know what was going on. and there's no clear documentation of what actually happened. So to speak on it any further at this point is really speculation. And since then, police have essentially directed their entire investigation onto the family, thinking that they are responsible for her death. And the family has been insistently repeating that it wasn't them, that it was someone else. And the police haven't really investigated a whole lot outside of the family. There have been a number of theories, a number of potential stalkers of the case. It really was a big deal at the time that this happened, and it is still a controversial case to this day. Some people believe the parents are doing a cover-up. Some people think Burke did it. Some people have completely other theories that it was a stranger, or that it was somebody else that was like obsessed with Jon Benet. Like there's a theory for everyone. I am not going to get too deep into what I personally think happened today, because I don't want my personal bias to color this reading. So, with all of that said and done, now you kind of have a general idea of what happened. Now, the goal here today is just to connect and receive whatever messages or details Jon Benet is willing to share with us. Keep in mind, she was very young when she passed, so while communicating these details in the afterlife is much different than it would be talking to an actual child, that she may not exactly have been aware of all the things actually happening around her. So I just want to temper expectations here on what I'm actually trying to accomplish. We are going to start by cleansing our space and energy with this lavender sage smudge spray. Take a couple of deep breaths in and out. And relax. And now I'd like to invite Jon Benet to join us if she so chooses. Now we will start with the cards, and I do feel she has entered. I'm always surprised on how heavy it feels to connect. So let's just start with an identifier card. Please give us a card to describe you and what you think we should know about you. I was getting, oh. Well, I definitely feel validated that she has joined. And she has given the 10 of Pentacles as her identifier. And I feel like it's really true. And a lot of her story has become her family's legacy. And it's almost ironic how this house is here in the back, because when we talk about her case and her story, we talk about the house so much. Like, the house is literally a character at this point in her case. And to pair this in addition to the 10 of Pentacles is also really fascinating, because in a way, like, she really was in a way, she really was like the family's public display of like their prestige and their wealth, and like her image really meant a lot to the family. Um, that's just so crazy. Like, because I imagine her mother also had like big things in mind for her in terms of like career and being able to make money off like her looks, because she was so beautiful, like even at a young age. And like it almost feels like the family was also like banking on her in terms of like finance, like in this case has some interesting financial ties. So it's also interesting that this comes up because, like I said, there was also a ransom note where they wanted Jon's very specific, like $187,000 Christmas bonus, which is a weird number in and of itself. But well, so now that we have our identifier, I want to just start with whatever you want to tell us. Okay. So the first card we had come out was the Emperor. And if you know anything about tarot, she's talking about her dad here. And we have work right next to it. This is like reaping the benefit of the work. This is like hard work, ethics of work, like very much putting in all the work to receive everything. Like, it's my work card. And on the other side, we have the Queen of Wands, which, not surprisingly, feels like her mother. And we have the Temperance. I want to double check that because I just want to make sure I'm not getting the wrong card. Yes. Temperance, Raven and the bartender. They sit together. They sit together to consider the complexity of life inside the mansion. The bartender is always pouring, blending, and mixing oppositional elements. Synthesis, complexity, alchemy, blending, healing, and equilibrium. And outside of parents, which is her dad's always working and her mom's always trying to keep the peace, we have the Knight of Pentacles and Chariot. And as a final hurrah, we have the Wheel of Fortune. I didn't want to do this. I didn't. One of the things that is obvious about this case that I feel like gets overlooked all the time is that the ransom note very specifically referenced his job and his finances. Like, this was about Jon and his business. And as I sit and ponder that, and I ask, is it employee, employer? For employer, I get the Five of Swords, which is conflict. So someone who is doing business with Jon was having a conflict. And when I ask, is it an ordered hit? I get the World, which is kind of like saying yes. I mean, the World is completion, and it's kind of like, you get it. Awesome. You're on the right track. And one of the things about the way that I read is very much I'm looking for a direct response to my own thoughts and assumptions. Because when I do that, then I'm having more of a conversation with them instead of just being like, tell it to me. Like, I'm able to say, like, hey, if I'm thinking this specific thing, like, am I right or am I wrong? And when I thought that specific thing, that's what I got. And one of the things I've always believed about this case was that this person knew what they were doing. Like, the Chariot's here to literally say they got away with it. And they have gotten away with it. But there's something that exists today that didn't exist then. And that is DNA evidence. And I wonder if this Wheel of Fortune is intended to say, like, we will find this person inadvertently through DNA evidence. And it makes sense why this card was kind of separated so much from the rest of them, because it's like saying a conclusion is coming. We're not there yet. But it will happen at some point. Even though the family has done a really good job of trying to kind of hide this, and one thing I've always said about the family, why I think they always look so bad publicly, particularly when it comes to Patsy and Jon together, was they very much wanted the police to solve this case without really getting much help from them. Like, they kind of just wanted to be like, we have no idea who did it. You figure it out. When it's like, no, this person is tied to you. And pentacle, like, it's right down the line. And you have the pentacle here. So you have, like, the ransom note tied to the job, tied to the person who wants whatever it was. Like, and I also wouldn't be surprised if this card is symbolic of, like, Jon also ended up paying that 187,000 or whatever the number was. Like, someone got their dues, but, like, Jon Benet was still a victim in the end. And yeah, she doesn't really have anything else she wants to add to this. But I've always believed that Jon knows more than he's ever alluded to. And I've always questioned his business dealings. And I know because of the way that the family lawyered up, that it was in some ways kind of difficult for the police to really fully investigate them. That this DNA evidence, this outside entity, is really what's going to bring everything home. Do you have any dark mirror you would like to add to this? Any sort of validation you want to give? The Jon Benet joining us now is not the same version of the Jon Benet that we're obsessed with. When these two came out, like, all I heard in my head was, I don't know why you guys are so obsessed with me. Like, she's just like, I feel like no sympathy for you. Like, she's just like, I don't know why you're so obsessed. And And I think part of it is because she was so young when she passed, and true crime wasn't a thing then the way it is now. Um, and even more so, like the mystery of what's happened to her. Like to her, it's not a mystery. Like to her, she's like, da da da, da da. Like it's it's obvious. Like I felt that way when I pulled the first cards. Based on what I'm hearing here, um, it wasn't Patsy. I don't even think it was Jon directly himself. Um, it wasn't Bert. Like it was very much someone tied to Jon's employment, and they got away with it. There was definitely some conflict happening here, and at the end of the day, like the whole point of this was to send a message, and that message was, don't mess with us. We will literally come after your family. And the fact that they took the star of the family was like even more of like, we will hurt you. And that's why you don't want to deal with shady dealings, because it can be dangerous. And I think that this family definitely kind of felt the wrath of that. It's very much a fuck around and find out sort of energy. And it sucks that an innocent little girl was the culmination of that. Show the world the real you. Like, the world wants to make this case about Jon Benet, and it's not about Jon Benet. It's about her dad, and that's why he came out first. That's why every card since then has been a tie to him. That's why she's like, I don't understand why you're obsessed with me, because it wasn't about me. It was about her dad. The family did a really good job of shifting the attention off of them and onto her, thinking that that would, one, probably keep people distracted enough, but two, like keep them from asking more questions about their ties and their connections. Because if there's one thing about psychology and murder that's like pretty true, is that most acts of violence aren't against strangers. A stranger attacking you is very rare, and it does happen. I'll say more so in some modern situations, but typically, like a personal attack like this isn't by a stranger, and that's why I've always believed the family isn't responsible themselves, but they know who is, and whatever nasty ties they have with this person, they don't want to reveal, because that is as damning, if not more so, than just saying like, hey, I think it was this person over here. Like, this is literally a knight, so that somebody sent to go and do something. And like I said, it was an ordered hit. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like cartel, mob, mafia, some other sort of big illegal organization ties that Jon had with his business. That's my reading. That's my thoughts and my opinions, and I think that's all we're going to hear from Jon Benet. She's really pointing us straight in that direction. So I hope you enjoyed this reading. I would like to thank everyone for joining me here today. I'm going to release Jon Benet from this reading. Thank you. And if you like videos like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys again next time. Take care of yourselves in the meantime.